All right. Looks like everything is working the way it's supposed to. It always does a little test first, and I'm never sure. On my end, it looks like everything's good, but
Well, last week we had so much trouble with everything, but I never once lost the live chat.
the live chat disappeared like at 30 minutes in. I had 35 minutes in, I think, almost 40. Um, that's where I lost it. But hey, everybody! Welcome to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. You hear Sean and I talking about the various issues we had last week on Under the Dome. So I think this time I've kind of gone through the system to see what the heck happened. I have no idea. I still don't know. I played with it. Everything looked fine. The only thing I can think happened is because so many people were home quarantine. I think we just got the perfect storm of so many people doing so many streaming services, so many people on their phones, everything at one time, and just put a strain on the system. That's all I can think of. But
Yeah, it sounds like
I
a
mean,
viable reason to me.
that's the only thing I can find because everything in the system checked out fine. My internet connection was extremely strong. Um, everything looked good. It's just what happened. I guess we just got in that perfect storm of people watching shows and watching Netflix and Stars and Hulu and Disney Plus, and I mean that's what people do, you
I
know.
don't ever watch TV, man. I'm sitting here right now with the volume muted, obviously, watching JFK.
The one with Kevin
Awesome.
Costner, yeah. Back and to the
Uh,
left, back and to the left, back and to the left. You know what's fun
yeah,
about that movie? And we're going to get to the actual show in a second. But you know what's fun about that movie, at least for me, is I look at that and try and figure out where they filmed everything. And, I recognize a lot of the stuff because it's all New Orleans.
yeah.
Where his house was and that kind of stuff. So I that's what I end up doing um, because I work downtown, so I see some of the places that are in. They did some filming in Lafayette Square. They did some filming around the courthouses, obviously, but I see a lot of the things that they were showing,
Yeah.
um, and that's true. Anytime they film any movie in New Orleans, which that reminds me, don't ever rent the movie The Big Easy or watch the movie The Big Easy. Um, that's a terrible film. There's one other one I'm trying to think of that was filmed in New Orleans, but like Big Easy, whatever movie had Richard Gere and
Ellen Barkin.
Ellen Barkin. Yeah, what movie was that?
That's the big easy.
That is Big Easy. That's the
Yeah.
one where they jump off a bridge somewhere, and next thing you know, they're going through a swamp.
Oh my lord. That sounds more like Ode to Billy Joe or something. I
That
don't
could be
know.
the Big E. That could be the Big Easy, but there's another one with
Oh yes,
Dennis
yes,
Quaid.
yes, yes, yes.
Dennis
It was
Quaid's in.
Patrick Swayze.
Was it Patrick Swayze?
Patrick Swayze. He was a dad that was trying to do one last score, but his two kids were with him.
No, no, no. That's not that one. There's another one that with Dennis Quaid in it. And he goes to the lakefront, and next thing you know, he's at some Cajun laboucherie, Fado dough, and then there are Tipitinas, and then there are some. I'm like, going, wait a minute, whoa, whoa, whoa. Then that's the one who's got the famous line. You start asking questions around in Algiers, they cut your tongue out and throw it in the river. We're like, really, really, Algiers? Okay.
It sounds like their filming schedule was just like
Ah,
the visitor's guide.
it was like no research whatsoever. I
Like
mean,
there was one I cannot remember the name of it. It was a really good movie. It was Denzel Washington
yeah.
about the ferry blowing up. Golly, I can't remember the name of that.
Well, this one, this, I think the Big Easy is the one where the guy supposedly jumps off the building and lands in the fountain that used to be at the foot of the World Trade Center, and they used to call it. They called that one a Mardi Gras fountain. They also have one in Lakeview, but they have him jump off some generic building like in New York, and that's where he ends up because the World Trade Center was ugly and you know businesses had left. It needed to be refurbished and everything, so it wasn't a good thing to film as an office building. So they picked some office building and show a guy jump, and that's where they found his body. The Riverwalk is all different now, so you know, but it just those early movies I used to just laugh at because it was just like, where the hell are they? Where are they now? You know?
I know that Brad Pitt has taken a huge interest in filming stuff that he's involved in Louisiana as well.
NCIS New Orleans does a lot, and Hollywood New Orleans really. I mean, they love to film downtown. They like to film at the old power plant that's by Mardi Gras World off of Tchoupitoulas. That's one of their favorite places to use
Oh,
because
that's the same place where I disembarked on our cruise
yeah.
over there behind the Mardi Gras tent.
Well, they got the twin smokestacks. And it's an old beat up building. It's an old power plant building. And I've always said if they ever wanted to move from the Superdome and build an open air stadium, which would be insane, but whatever. If they ever build an open air stadium, that's where they need to build it because they've got the land for it there. But they love to film there so much that I can't
Yeah,
imagine them ever tearing that building down.
the last Jack Reacher, Tom Cruise, the last Jack Reacher movie took place, or it concluded in New Orleans.
Yeah, almost any
Yeah.
place it's in New Orleans, they're going to film from that particular building. So anytime you see a warehouse or some kind of big looking open area, busted out windows and stuff, that's the power plant building they use to film in. So anyway, oh, I just realized I didn't put my
Well,
Saints jersey.
so tell me this. I was thinking about this afternoon as I watched this movie, and you guys bear with us.
Mhm.
Alan is an endless volume of knowledge on stuff like this.
Now I have a complete and thorough command of totally useless information. That's what it is.
Um,
Completely useless information.
okay, the places that are in JFK.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
want to say the name of it at the beginning where they go and they watch the newscast that they they find out that Kennedy is dead. I
Oh, the
think the
guy
name
starts
of it is
clapping.
Napoleon.
Yeah.
Is that still a place?
You know, I think they actually went Ernst Cafe when they filmed that thing. They just said it was something else. Because it was supposed to be
Okay.
on the riverfront out there. Um, I don't think so. I'm gonna have to go back and watch JFK again and get a good look at some of the buildings and some of the places. That sure
Well,
looks like
they
Ernst
do
Cafe.
a really, really good aerial shot, and I don't know what they had to do to make the buildings look uh, period.
No,
Uh,
you don't have to. You don't have to do much in New Orleans
yeah,
because they don't
I know.
change much. I mean, especially downtown. You know, unless they tear a place down, they really preserve the old facade, the front.
Yeah.
So um,
Well, I'm just curious about
I
it.
have to go back and look. It's been a while since I watched JFK. You know, because there's things in there, and I was in college and in graduate school. I was big into Kennedy, the Kennedy assassination, just the Kennedy presidency in general. So I watched a lot, and I watched that JFK, and even I was like, well, man, you're really reaching here. You know,
Well,
I'll.
I urge, as great a put together movie as that was,
Mhm.
it is absolutely a fantastic film. The way that it was put together, the way that it was written,
Yeah.
it's excellent, and it very much gives you some thought provoking things to think about. But anyone who completely buys in to the conspiracy theory stuff on the Kennedy assassination, based on what they see in the movie JFK, I urge you to do research on everything else.
It's just enough to make you want to think these things because
I
he's
bought it hook, line, and sinker
well,
when the movie came out,
yeah.
and and then I got to digging a little deeper, and I did some exhaustive research on David Garrison.
Mhm.
that completely changed my take on
You
it.
know, that's Garrison who plays Earl Warren.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually Jim Garrison. So,
Why did I say David? Jim
uh,
Garrison.
thinking David Ferry,
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Pesci. But you know and a lot of that stuff is true about the underground world and all that stuff. You know, they
Oh,
were talking
sure.
about back then. But you know,
And to be totally honest, and I don't want to get off on a tangent here, there's no way that I buy completely at face value that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in that. I really don't.
well,
But
the
that,
Zapruder film is what makes all these things so difficult to accept because you have a timeline. You know
yeah,
how fast things happen, and the gun he used from where he shot and the killing shot. You know that all that stuff leads into why it couldn't have just been Lee Harvey Oswald. You know,
it,
I've been to Texas, I've been to Dallas, I've been, and it's amazing. You know, speaking of you were talking about preserved, you take that turn in front of that bookstore, it looked exactly the same way as it did in 1963. And you can go over the grass. The only thing that's gone is the switch yard in the back is gone. But if you go to the grassy knoll, they got a guy handing out conspiracy pamphlets. There's a museum now in the book depository. You can go look through the window that Oswald stood in. They've got everything all glass, boxed off with plexiglass. They have book boxes in there, like how it looked in '63, November 22nd, '63. All that stuff in there, but there's enough credibility as you look in there trying to take that shot, thinking about him taking that shot from there. They are right in the film where he says he got better as the car was moving away from him. He got more accurate according to the film, the
yeah,
Zapruder film. Because the first few shots he misses.
yeah,
They found three bullets, so they assumed it was three shots. Um, and it's the third shot, it's the killing shot. So I mean, that's what feeds that stuff. But then you read the
yeah.
other books and they explain how it was possible, even without going into the magic bullet theory. But I just I don't want to get too deep into that because I'm going to get people tuning out because like, man, I don't want to hear about Kennedy, you know.
Well,
But it's
it really is a fascinating movie. I don't suggest anyone to watch it and buy it completely at face value. I would, and I'm an American history major. Do your own thing.
yeah. I taught the Kennedy presidency in high school. I taught it to some students and stuff. And a lot of them had never seen the Zapruder film before. They didn't even know what it was. And I said, okay, here it is. I'm going to show it to you. And they all do the same thing, killing each other. They go, oh my God, because it's just unbelievable. And I said, this is what feeds the conspiracy theory. If Abrams Zapruder does not film the assassination, people don't buy into the conspiracy theories. I mean, you'll always have people, you got people saying 9/11 is an inside job. You got people saying the moon landing is faked. You got, there's aliens at Area 51. You got all that stuff, okay? But the very fact that you've got a documented by film and time of how quickly and how the president was killed, that's what feeds the conspiracy theories. So it's just it's fascinating from almost a morbid standpoint and historical standpoint, but at the same time you're just like, you could fall into that rabbit hole so quickly. But hey,
Yeah.
why don't you pay the bills real quick?
Well, now that we've
Change
run out of
gears.
time,
Change gears. Oh, we talk about New Orleans films, and of course you're talking about JFK, so that just kind of feeds
yeah,
into it all.
welcome to the isolationist movement of 2020.
Hey, that's what
Don't you
happens
don't you
when
love
you're
that this dyslexic bastard that wrote the Mayan calendar? Man, It wasn't 2012. It was 2021.
Well,
Anyway,
somebody
thank
wanted to
you guys
relive
for
the
joining
20s, and
us
we
on
are.
Under the Dome. We hope you guys are all safe and doing well. We want to invite you to follow our show on iTunes and on YouTube, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter, and on with the show.
Hey, okay, so I don't know if you saw this on Twitter the other day, but it was the last night, in fact, maybe the day before. No, it was yesterday. It was yesterday, Monday night, Tuesday morning, I think, whatever it was. Sean Payton apparently is going stir crazy, sitting in quarantine because Sean did test positive for the coronavirus. Um, and somebody posted on Twitter, list your favorite plays. He's basically talking about Madden plays. Well, man, Sean Payton jumps into that conversation, just throwing things out there with the names of the plays and everything else, explaining, how they get the names. If they wanted a tight stack, it's they use names like JJ's for Jimmy John's, Quiznos, Subway, all this stuff. Explaining the numbering. 52 is if it's 352, it's three receivers, and the 52 is the pass protection or the blocking scheme. It's amazing. He kind of broke down his plays, and it was fascinating to watch. Fans are freaking out because, like, Sean, don't put all this out here. They got Falcon fans looking at this, and then of course all the memes. The guys cheating. Falcon coaches be like, looking over at the paper and stuff. But
Yeah.
Sean just said, "Hey, we've been this stuff's been on film forever, and they still can't figure it out." And it was, I just liked it. I really got a kick out of watching this stuff. But and even the New Orleans Saints retweeted this and put it up on Facebook as well. Sean breaking down the plays, why they call things what they call them, what the passing concepts are. He was saying things like got to get Kamara's touches, feed it to Mike, that kind of stuff. And it brought to mind, I guess, when Sean being on social media today, the big news was, well, back up a little bit.
The
Also,
rattlesnakes.
also 2 days ago, Sean Payton said that Taysom Hill is now going to be the number two quarterback on the team. And I kind of poo pooed that by saying, well, yeah, that's today. Who knows what's going to happen if they draft a quarterback or if they sign somebody else, what happens on that? Because I can't imagine them just going with two quarterbacks this year and not using Taysom the way they use him in the offense. Um, but the the other thing was today, the big news. Sean Payton came out and said this is probably going to be Drew Brees' last year. And this fits in with the stories we heard after the Pro Bowl, where Drew got to start the game because he allegedly was going around to the Pro Bowl during that week of practice saying, "Yeah, this will be my last go around on this. This is probably my last game." And of course he's come back. So my question for you, Sean, is what do you think of all these stories? Do you believe this is Sean Payton's last year? And Sean Payton, Drew Brees' last year? Do you believe Sean Payton that Taysom Hill is going to be the number two quarterback with the implication that he could be the starter next year? How do you interpret all this stuff?
Well, first of all, I think when you look at Taysom Hill, you're not going to change his role in this offense. Now, that's going to mean that you're going to have to go out in free agency and find you a legitimate backup quarterback. Now, that's not to say that Taysom Hill won't take snaps. God forbid that something happened to Drew again. And you and I have touched on this ad nauseum over the past couple of months. When you take Taysom Hill and put him in the quarterback role,
Hmm.
how much of your offense are you eliminating?
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that Taysom isn't capable. I will not say that. Um, I don't believe that the Saints are going quarterback hunting in this draft. I truly don't. But I do believe that we bring in someone that's going to be able to serve a legitimate backup role. Now, that's part one. Part two, the future. Okay. We've seen this movie before.
Hmm.
Drew Brees is going to play until Drew Brees wants to quit.
Yep.
Drew is after that second Super Bowl because whether we agree with it or not, that defines his career differently than retiring with one Super Bowl. I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory, but it does. Uh, I
Essentially, it'd be taking two different teams to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah,
Completely different teams.
11 or 12 years apart.
It'll be 12 years apart.
Okay. Um, and I I think that this decision is probably, as you and I were discussing off there, I think that this decision is probably going to be made and dictated upon by the success of this season.
I'm sorry, 11
Um,
years apart, 12 seasons. But yeah, point still good.
I do believe that, I mean, when you're a certifiable first ballot unanimous choice Hall of Famer, there's only one way that you want to end your career,
Hmm.
and that's winning the Super Bowl and riding off into the sunset the way that Peyton and John Elway both did.
Yep.
But if it doesn't shake out that way, I would not be at all surprised. I mean, he's still under contract for next year too.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I felt 2018 was going to be Drew's last year, but the way that season ended with the no call and an interception in overtime and the lose the way they lost, and knowing that core was still going to be intact in 2019, Drew came back for one more year. Then he injures his thumb. And I think he realized how much he's going to miss the game. As much as he loves to be with his kids, as much as he loves his teammates and stuff, he misses the competition, the game itself. But
Well, you hear retired players talk all the time
mm,
about they don't miss the grind, they don't miss the two a days, they don't miss all the. What they miss is the camaraderie of the locker room.
absolutely,
And
absolutely,
Drew is the undeniable leader of that locker room.
yep,
And you can't go from being what Drew Brees is to that team to just absolutely nothing at the blink of an eye. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a shock for
well,
anybody, much
I,
less Drew Brees.
if they would have gone on to Super Bowl this past year, I think he would have retired. But again, I think what was driving him was he didn't like the way it ended. He wants he wants that shot. Now, if they lose the Super Bowl, he'll still retire, but he wants to get back, and he still sees that core is still here. They haven't had to break it up yet to pay everybody. You've got Thomas locked up. What are you going to do with Kamara? Now we lost Bell, but we lost Ingram, but you know Cam Jordan's still there, Sheldon Rankins, the Marshawn Lattimore, the the core that he likes and thinks that can win a championship is still intact. There hasn't been a rebuild yet, or the need to start moving people because of salary, just because people leave, they get old, retire, whatever. So I think he wants to. He still feels like the window is still open as long as that core is intact. Um, and until he feels like it's not intact, it's going to be this whole we'll see next year. We'll see next year. And I think he really had that conversation with his wife. He said, "Listen, if I go back, you know, it's one more year where the kids get a little bit older." And his wife said, "But do you think you're going to be happy going out the way you did?" And that's what you're talking about. He wants to go out with that Super Bowl ring. He wants to go out. That's why the picture of the trophy. He wants to go out like that again. Hold that trophy up again. Show he can do it again. Have all the records. Now that Tom Brady's in the division, and that's what we're going to jump into next. But now that Tom Brady's in the division, play those games that the media is going to lose their mind over. Both of them will be on national TV. I promise you.
Absolutely.
Saints Tampa, both those games are going to be on Sunday night or Monday Night Football. They're not going to be a noontime game. That Sunday and Monday Night Football, national televised audience, and it might even be Thanksgiving night one night. I don't know. It may not. It may even be a Thursday night game, but it's going to be something that the whole country can see because that's going to be must see TV. And I think that's going to drive Drew, because it's the records, them going head to head twice, that's going to feed him even more. So, that's just how I feel about Drew. Now, with Taysom, Avery brings up a good point. He said in that same interview, he also said they could bring in a veteran, which is still possible, a Joe Flacco, not Cam Newton, and certainly not Winston, famous Jameis Winston and his 30 turnovers. But a Matt Moore, Joe Flacco kind of veteran to back up just to be a clipboard holder and a sounding board in the quarterback room while Taysom does his thing and Drew is doing his thing. You just got that veteran insurance in case something happens during the game, you know.
Yeah, like what we saw in Los Angeles last.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Somebody who's going to be prepared and can run this
I mean, every dollar that you spent on Teddy Bridgewater over the course of that 5-week run last year was absolutely worth it.
Yeah, especially because you went 5-0. I mean, that's what justified everything. You went 5-0 in that run. That was an important run. Those 5 wins help you win 13 games. Get you didn't get the number 1 or number 2 seed, unfortunately, but it got you in the playoffs, and that's what you need. You cannot have an injury that just knocks you out of the playoffs. Um, I just I can't see them bringing in. Well, I certainly never see them bringing in Cam Newton. I mean, I share this article over and over and over again, but
oh dear God, don't eat. Oh my!
yeah,
I think I just had an aneurysm.
But Cam doesn't like these long verbiage plays. I mean, he said that. He's in the article I've shared, and it's an ESPN article. He even is talking about watching the Saints play when Sean's mic'd up and he's reading that playoff to Drew. And he's like, and I looked at that and I went, nah, I want one word plays like Rivera or Stomp or things. I mean, it's stupid stuff.
You gotta go to Washington, man.
That's high school football. I mean, that's the kind of plays we ran. I ran more complicated plays than playground ball.
Cam Newton has made his living off of his legs.
I know.
Well, he's an athlete, and he ain't got much left in the tank.
No, he doesn't. He's been beat up. Your body can only take so many hits. And the other one, Jameis Winston, is the other name I keep seeing brought up because you've got media types thinking that Well, look what Sean Payton did to Teddy Bridgewater and got him a starter's job over in Carolina. Maybe he could fix, and we talked about this with Marcus Mariota. Maybe he can fix Winston's problems. The problem with Mariota, that you could fix Mariota, was the fact that he had five different offensive coordinators in 5 years, three different head coaches. You saw the potential in the beginning, and then it kind of fades each year till he got benched this year. Okay, so in that case, you can sit there and say, "Well, it was a coaching problem." But with Winston, you're seeing the same mistakes over and over and over again. And he's had now two so called offensive minded or quarterback friendly coaches, Bruce Arians and Kirk Cutter, who is the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator now. So the difference between the two for me is Winston's making a lot of dumb mistakes that someone who's been in the league 5 years shouldn't be making. Mariota suffered from not only injuries, but from an defensive minded coaches or schemes that are very archaic. And I'm thinking of Mike Mularkey when he was there, that did not take advantage of his
To
skills.
rehabilitate Mariota could be a massive undertaking. And let
Oh,
me
yeah.
explain what I mean by that. When you look at Mariota, you're talking about a number one pick in the draft.
Well, so was Winston. Winston was picked
Yeah,
ahead of him.
yeah, absolutely. But the difference being, Mariota went to Tennessee, and he was supposed to be the resurrecting savior.
Mm-hmm.
And he struggled for what, 3, 4 seasons?
Yeah. Well, he did get
Mediocre results.
he got
And
to he won a playoff game 2 years ago against Kansas City. But yeah, with Alex Smith as quarterback.
and then he's pulled and replaced,
Yeah,
and the team goes to the AFC Championship. Now
another
that's
rehabilitation
a
project.
problem not only from a fundamental
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, that goes directly to one of the most essential elements of being a pro quarterback. That hits at your confidence.
Yeah.
So it is hard to come back from something like that, especially when you're replaced by what can only be considered like a journeyman quarterback.
Well, Tannehill is a rehabilitation project apparently for um for Tennessee's head coach. I just drew a blank on the ex. It's not Vilma. It's
No, Vilma was with us.
no. It's the he was a linebacker for the Patriots. I can picture him with his cheesy mustache. And
Vrabel.
Vrabel, thank you. It's Vrabel. Yeah, Calvin. Fact is, Winston had an interception problem in college and it carried over. That is true.
Hey, he did not have an interception problem. He balanced it with touchdown.
Yeah, but no, I mean Winston is what. But when I look at Winston, unlike Mariota, when I look at Winston, I see somebody who I hate saying Aaron Brooks because that's a cheap, easy knock. But Aaron Brooks had a similar problem. I see a guy who thinks his talent is greater than having to learn from his mistakes. In other words, he's not throwing interceptions because he's trying to wing the ball and force things because he's got to make a play because there's no playmakers on the team, or they're so far behind the defense knows what's coming. He's throwing an interception on his first pass attempt, and yeah, I mean it's just not having good ball placement because a lot of his pick sixes, he's throwing to the inside instead of throwing between the sideline and the receiver, where the receiver is the only one who can catch it. Other than that, it probably goes out of bounds.
Well,
It's that.
to me, Cam Newton and James Winston both suffered from one uh, problem
Mm-hmm.
in the approach to playing them. They were both asked to do way more than they were capable of doing. For all those years, every ounce before McCaffrey, every ounce of offense that the Carolina Panthers drew was off of Cam Newton. Whether
Well,
he's
you
throwing
look,
it, whether he's running it,
yeah,
and that shortened his career.
you look at
Now
what.
with Jameis,
Mhm.
they have tried way too hard to make him the focal point and not let him be in a position where he could just do what he needed to do.
Yeah. Well, but you look at what they did in college, and it's like they tried to import what they did in college into the pros, especially with Newton. You know, that's what Auburn was. Auburn was Newton on offense, and you can get away with that in college because you even in the SEC, you may be playing against in the SEC now six guys
Yeah.
who are NFL caliber players. Whereas in the ACC or the Sun Belt or the Big 12 or the Big 10 or the Pac
But
I'm sorry Pac
in
12 and
the
all those.
NCAA, you can get away with what's the word I'm looking for? Taking advantage of playmakers,
Oh, guys are wide open.
leaning on guys and their playmaking ability. You can get away with that in college. You
Go
can't
back,
do
go
that
back,
in
go back
professional.
in the draft and go look at how many Tennessee receivers went in the first round when Peyton Manning was playing in Tennessee. You look at how many Tennessee receivers went high in those drafts because of that offense and Peyton Manning. And you start realizing, and then when they got to the pros, they weren't nearly as good. You start realizing that, the teams they played and the system, the scheme they ran was so far advanced, or the athletics ability was so much greater than what they were playing on the other side of the field that it made players appear to be greater than they really are, and that's the problem you always run into college football. Um, that's why guys that you see in college that just light people up, and I'm thinking of like University of Houston when they were running and shoot. I'm sorry I keep going back to that,
Yeah,
but I mean
absolutely. That's a
that was
perfect
when I was in
example.
college. That's what was going
The
on.
Houston, BYU,
Yeah,
those were perfect. How many quarterbacks that played for Odell Edwards really had transcending careers in the NFL? I can only think of one.
yeah. I mean,
Jim McMahon.
they
Well,
brought
I take that back. Two. Jim McMahon and Steve Young.
yeah. Well, Steve Young had to learn how to play quarterback
Well, it took him
with
stop.
with
It took it took Steve Young stops in two separate leagues
yeah.
to develop his game.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm thinking about Mouse Davis and University of Houston. Detroit brings Mouse Davis in to run the run and shoot for Andre Ware, who they picked in the draft in the first round. I think he was number 3 overall pick. They bring him in there to run that offense, and he still couldn't make it work in the NFL.
Well, there again, you're not playing against a defense that has well in what is that Southwest Conference?
Yeah, that was South Carolina back then. Yeah,
You're not playing against a team that has 1 to 2 standout players. You're playing against the best 32 players.
well, yeah, playing
In,
SMU still recovering from the death penalty.
yeah,
I mean, that's reality. I mean, SMU was still reeling from the death penalty. Texas Christian wasn't that great. So you're not. It, it the field is so much wider in college than it is in the NFL. That was Reggie Bush's problem when we had Bush. He kept trying to break it to the outside because that worked in college because the hash marks are so wide apart compared to the NFL. The defense is lining up in the middle of the field, Reggie. So there is no outside run you can go, and you're going to get the angle. You could do it in high school football. It's even more because they're even wider apart. Hell, at playground football, we had almost a high school hash mark. And I ran so many plays to the wide side because those poor kids, you get the ankle on them, that's a touchdown.
What you
One
talking about,
play.
man? I ran the wishbone.
I don't even think about that because going back to Sean Payton's plays and stuff, they were talking about, in the 2012. I shared this video several places, but, talking about Sean running, being the offensive coordinator for his son's sixth grade team. He says, instead of getting plays like run right, pass left, that kind of thing, we're getting Y X banana. They said all these weird names. It was hilarious. And ironically, the offense they lost to, or the team they lost to, ran the single wing, and they couldn't stop it.
Oh man.
They could not stop it because in this, the quarterback would do a complete spin, and then the backs all start because back then in the single wing offense, the quarterback, and this is why he's called the quarterback is only a quarter of a yard back from the line of scrimmage. The halfback, this is why he's called the halfback, is a half a yard away, and the fullback is a full yard away, hence the name fullback.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knew that, but that's why they called it that. But
The
yeah,
single wing is also the Notre Dame box.
yes, yes.
Yeah. I played against the team in high school, Sicily Island High School. They
Well,
ran the Notre Dame box.
yeah, and it's a
And they
hard
beat us unmercifully.
because it's the original NFL offense. It's a non-passing offense. This is what they
We threw the
ran.
ball like 3 times all season.
Yeah, this is what they ran in the 20s, 1920s.
Red Grange.
Yeah, this is Red Grange. This is when it looks like rugby. This is the ball they were throwing back